Your next promotion is just the beginning, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 195. As you know, I set out at the beginning of the summer of 2023 to celebrate over 108 promotions as part of the Summer of Magic 2023. And we are well past 108 promotions, and I couldn't be more excited for every single one of the women who have done the work to get themselves into a position of influence and power at their organizations, outside of their organizations, and also the willingness to celebrate with me this huge accomplishment. In today's episode, I am highlighting four of those women who reached out to me at various different points throughout the summer to say, hey, here is my Summer of Magic win, and I can't wait to celebrate with you. So I am congratulating them, and we are also sharing with you their journey to creating their own magical career success. You are going to absolutely love it. So let's get started. Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out, because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and incredibly excited to be here with you this week. If you've been following me online or listening to this podcast over the summer, you know that I am celebrating the Summer of Magic 2023. Let me explain a little bit about the Summer of Magic and how it came to be. And then I'm going to introduce to you the fabulous panelists that I have on today's episode who are going to talk about their own Summer of Magic and share some of the ways that they got there. So back in 2022, a whole year ago, I was on vacation visiting my family, and I received a message from one of my one-on-one clients who said, guess what? I got promoted to vice president. And not only that, I was on vacation when it happened. And I said, well, of course you got promoted, and how amazing that you were on vacation. And then I realized that this is not something that typically people think is possible. They don't expect the email to come in even outside of performance review, more or less like while they're on sabbatical or while they're on vacation. But if you put together pieces in place, you are going to get notified at random points in time that you're being promoted. And this happens over and over and over again. So I set out last year to get 13 promotions, lucky number 13. And I was able to get I think there might have been 16 in that time that we were able to celebrate. How are we going to do this? And I instantly realized that getting promoted, celebrating the Summer of Magic, getting more women into higher level leadership positions is way bigger than little old me. If I'm going to double the number of women in the executive suite, I need everybody's help, including my book, including this podcast, including my programs, including employees of the people in my programs who then are able to get promoted because the women in my programs have the tools to then be better leaders for their team. It's a ripple effect. And that is what we've been celebrating this summer inside of the Summer of Magic. And we're well past 108 promotions. It's absolutely unbelievable. I don't even know what number we're at right now. We just kept celebrating them every single week. So we're celebrating everybody here and how they were able to create their next promotion. And also, more importantly, what role magic played in that and how they're going to continue having that voice at the table. I am going to just have each one of them introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their Summer of Magic promotion, what happened to them most recently, and then we'll get into some of the backstory as to how they got there. All right, Brandy, why don't you kick us off?
Thanks so much, Stacy. It's great to be here. Brandy Giannetta. I'm a leader in renewable energy. I'm currently working for a large renewable energy company in Canada. I've been very motivated and focused on growth opportunities and opportunities where I can continue to learn and grow and then transfer those learnings onto others in a leadership capacity. I've been within the renewable energy industry for over a decade, honing my subject matter expertise and finding those growth pathways. And only just currently started in this new role at this very large company, very new for me. That just this past June. Previous to that, I was with the same organization for over 11 years in various roles, working throughout the chain of command there, but really super excited to be moving on to this new role. I left a vice president role with a small team of about 7 folks and inherited a team of 16 in a director role. So it was very, very different in the way of job title and responsibility. But really, the magic there for me was having the clarity on what was really important to me and honing my leadership capacity and my capacity to have an impact on women in particular, as well as within my industry. So the magic for me was really just, like I said, having that clarity and then this opportunity, like really working to define that opportunity and making it happen for myself. So I'm really excited to be in this position in a company that's growing and that creates pathways for opportunity for folks like me to enable others as well. So it's a position of empowerment. It's a position of leadership and subject matter expertise, and it kind of checks all the buckets on all of the things that are really important priorities for me. So I'm really excited about what the future holds at this company for me.
Me too. Me too. I'm excited for you. That is so great. And, let's go back and listen to my Summer of Magic podcast episode on setting intentions. This is such a great example of her knowing exactly what she wants, but not how she was going to get there. And we can go more into that, but it's so clear to me that you're exactly where you need to be and the impact you're going to make. It's amazing. All right, Kathryn.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm excited to be here today. My recent promotion happened in June 2023, and I work for a very large Canadian company with a political public mandate. I am now in the top 400 executive out of a 70,000 employee base. Very excited to have a seat at the table, and it was magical for me, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. The secret for me was just continuing to be myself. I'm not the same carbon copy of everyone else. So I'm super excited that I continue to be myself and I'm able to change that leadership style and have a great impact and great influence.
Amazing. Oh, Kathryn. So Kathryn was in one of my first cohorts of Executive Ahead of Time. And it's just like so fantastic to hear you today to own that you are in fact part of the executive team. And I remember when you sent me the DM celebrating your Summer of Magic promotion, that was the first thing you said, like, I am one of the executive team members. And this is huge because you are a corporate badass and now everybody else gets to recognize that too. So I'm just so thrilled.
Sometimes I just have to pinch myself when I'm referred to as part of the senior executive leadership team. So lots of room for movement. So super happy.
Oh, so good. Hello, Nicole. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Stacy. Thank you for having me. And thank you for your thought leadership and for providing a place for women to evolve who we are as leaders and expand our ability to impact those companies that we're working with. It's been really inspiring to watch this community celebrate all of the women who have been promoted this summer in the Summer of Magic. So hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Durga. I'm the Regional Outcomes Director for Mary Free Bed at Home and Residential Home Health. In this new position, I'm spending my time weaving learning and development innovation with quality and data analytics to really drive outcomes in the healthcare sector. And it's been really fun to merge those together in a new role.
So good. Nicole and I were talking before this. So Nicole's usually behind the scenes, but you know about thought leadership, right? Like, you know that this matters. And she's usually the one pushing out the podcast episodes and the blog posts. And now she actually gets to be on here and be celebrated. And to me, that really, really matters, right? It matters as, when we look back at our life and our career, having moments like this to publicly say, hey, I'm part of the executive team. Hey, I got this promotion. I earned this. This is my voice. My voice matters. It really does matter. And so I'm so thankful that you stepped out from behind the curtain to be in front of the curtain here with us today. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you, Stacy.
All right, Sandra.
Hello, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I've really enjoyed the past few years working with you and all of the other women. And my husband laughs because we talk about promotions made easy. He's like leadership made easy. And really swapping, because it's not always about the promotion piece. So for me, I knew that it was time to look at what my next step was and how things played out. And I know we'll talk more about that, but the magic is really following the steps that you've laid out and really helping us be thoughtful and think about what it is we want. And for me, my new job, I started it this month, and it's working at Angelo State University. That required us to move across the country for the position and the move, which has been absolutely wonderful, because from a leadership piece, it's allowing me to combine all of the things that I've learned with all of my passions. So it was really the right fit at the right time. And for me, that's what's really exciting, is seeing things come together with exactly what I want in the place that I wanted to be, through following all of the steps and working with you.
Sandra has a unique opportunity to work in the university system, which typically doesn't actually have promotions. It's like you're the dean. That's it. And so when your husband talks about this idea of leadership, that is your promotion, right? Being able to be more involved, more of a leader, more yourself. I'd love to actually, as we continue the conversation here, can you share a little bit about that process? Because I think it's really easy for us to think of a traditional corporate ladder and how we scale our career. But I feel like for you in particular, it's a unique opportunity to share different ways that you were able to grow.
Absolutely. So in higher education, I guess there are some promotional paths. And I think that part of that is that a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a college president, or I want to be a provost, which oversees the academic piece, or I want to be the VP of whatever. But I think through this process, it was really being thoughtful about what it is that I enjoy doing, as well as what am I good at doing, and then how do my unique backgrounds, because when you think about being a faculty member, it's coming in as faculty and getting tenured. And that was part of what came with this position, is that I'm a tenured faculty member. But for me, it was being able to incorporate the online education piece, which I've had such a great background in leadership in doing that, into the academic setting. And so this particular position isn't unique to this institution. A lot of them have them, but once people get settled in positions in higher education, they don't always move out of them, especially the higher level ones. They stay in them for a long, long time, or until they retire. And so I think it's really trying to understand how you want to lead, what types of change you want to make within an organization, and then how you go about doing that and finding the right pieces. Because I know that we talked about trying to really find the jobs that made sense for me. Because at the end, I had 3 opportunities to choose from, and they're all phenomenal opportunities, phenomenal job choices, but it was the one that really fit. And I think that that's the process that really helps you understand who you are and what you want and where you're going to make that impact. And that's where that leadership piece is, like, how can you really have that impact on the greater system that you want to work for? And it was really exciting when they were coming through, because interviewing, I know you talk a lot about you should always be interviewing and always be networking and always doing those things, but they're important when you absolutely need a job, but it's important to be doing those things all along so that you have that skill set, because the higher up you go, the more honed and poised you need to be in interviews and presentations. And it's so funny meeting people. There's so many employees and faculty to meet, and they're like, I loved your talk. I loved your presentation. This was great. That was wonderful. And it's just so nice to hear those types of pieces for what they really enjoyed doing during my interview process, where I connected so well with them. And just how do I use that to really help my leadership to achieve some of the goals that I'm able to set now.
So good. I'm realizing, and this is part of my magical genius. I'm looking at the 4 of you right now and thinking, wow, I have brought together 4 very diverse women who work in very different fields. And so I want to kind of go on this train for a few more minutes. And I was thinking about Kathryn and working in government and the 15-minute ally meeting process. So Sandra already kind of spoke to this idea of networking even before you need a job, before you need a promotion. And I know that this was a huge leap for you to be able to, especially in an industry where that's not always welcome and not everybody is doing that. So I would love, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit about your networking process, even outside of getting, like, I want a promotion, but more so just how do I connect with higher level individuals in government?
Yes, absolutely. And that's correct. It's not always smiled upon that you can just go meet with whomever you want, especially 2 or 3 levels higher. What I did, I had to start. The first step was actually starting and getting out of my nervousness about meeting with people. And I'll be frank, not everyone that I met with, I clicked with. So I think that's important. It was important for me to note, but it was also educational because it's different personality styles, different motivations, different goals. So I didn't click with everyone, but it was polite and diplomatic. And they said, in some cases, why don't you meet with this person? So the ally meetings really, really helped me because there was one in particular person that I really clicked with and was very helpful to me in a mentorship capacity. And I was able, even to this day, to be able to continue that collegial rapport with her. So,
do you think that that's helping you in terms of your confidence now that you are a member of the executive team? How did these ally meetings help you, be willing to say yes? Because that's the other part of promotions, right? Is that we are the ones who are actually saying yes to this role and having the confidence to do that.
The ally meetings helped because I realized I needed to find the proper good fit for me. I was so just intent on getting a promotion that I had to stop and slow down and say, I need to get to know the right fit. And it's important to me, the leadership style, that it matches my values and behaviors as well. So through this one ally meeting, I was able to meet someone else. And interestingly enough, the person who ended up hiring me, I had known her for many, many years and been in presentations, had task force meetings with her. It wasn't until I had that 15-minute ally meeting where I was able to talk personally with her. And at the same time, by the way, I noticed that you have a position up that I'm interested in applying for. At the end, she said to me, I've known you all these years, but it's been such a pleasure to get to know you personally. So that ally meeting made a huge difference, just that connection. And I realized I was aligned with her values, her leadership style, the team. So that was fantastic. That was magical.
Oh, so good. All right, Nicole, I actually realized, so Nicole is the person that I haven't worked with one-on-one personally, but I'm hoping I've made an impact on her life. I invited her to be on this podcast. But I want to hear more about your process to promotion, but also just know I'm hearing this in real time because I don't really know. So tell us, Nicole, how did you get here?
Well, actually, Stacy, this is my second promotion since I've been following your podcast and I've gotten your book and the different trainings you've put out, because you did a 1 day, 1 hour live session on executive presence. And I did that. And you did one on 15-minute ally meetings. And that was the biggest catalyst. You did that last summer for me to finally pull the trigger and actually do an ally meeting, which I didn't call them that when I asked for them in the meeting invite. I called them a connection, 15-minute connection call, where I was trying to talk to people who I didn't normally get to interact with. So when I got that first promotion last May, I started reaching out to some of the senior VPs to kind of just get to know them, as well as presenting it as a way to connect with people across the company. So I really appreciate your process and your strategy. Really just implement the steps that you've laid out. It does really work. It really helps build your confidence too, as you get to know these people and have more of those higher level conversations.
Oh, so good. Oh my gosh. I love all of this. That's awesome, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you. And Brandy, it's just we already kind of touched on this idea of intention, and I'll get some women. So another piece of the process, we've talked about 15-minute ally meetings, but another thing that I teach a lot is 3Xing your vision. And when we think about what's the position that we want 3 promotions from now, so not the next promotion, but the promotion after that, and after that, and after that. And for you, it was always very clear exactly the impact that you wanted to make, and the confidence was there. And then, like you said, you had been at this company for 11 years. So it was I know everything here. Everybody knows me. This is ally meetings have been done, right? So I'm curious for you how you made this transition, and then also continuing to own that 3X vision. But like you said, going from vice president to director, which to me is yes, but somebody on the outside might be oh, maybe that's a step back. No way. So I want to be very clear exactly what magic is happening for you.
Definitely, and great context builder there too, Stacy. Thank you, because it was just that after 11 years of being in a series of progressive roles up to the vice president, if not the CEO, there was nowhere else for me to really go, and having to let that go was a big deal for me. And so I absolutely see the director role that I'm in now as a massive promotion from the vice president role that, quite frankly, I think I was at risk of being stuck in if I hadn't really visioned myself out of it and moved on with the clarity that I gained a lot through the coaching and the support and mentorship from the other women in executive ahead of time as well. To really be clear on what was important to me. And what was important to me wasn't a title. It was the impact. And I knew very clearly that I wanted to empower others. I wanted to lead others. I did not want to be stuck in the weeds. Do I have a lot of answers to a lot of questions? Sure. But I know there's a lot of smart people around me too that do. And I want to leverage that intelligence and innovation and bring it up to the level that I've achieved. So I am really motivated by empowerment. I'm really motivated by empowering women. And this role in particular that I'm in now, I have all women on my team. I have one male. I shouldn't say that because we have Philip and he is amazing, but I really was so excited to be inheriting a team of all women with a clear mandate that was focused not on, the daily deliverables are still there. We have a lot of work to do that I'm responsible for, but not being in the weeds. And that's something that you teach very early on in your program, Stacy. And it's really important for me because as a subject matter expert in a really technically inclined industry, you can get stuck in the weeds really easily. And I worked really hard to get myself out of that. And I don't think I was super successful in my last role, despite becoming vice president in a very short period of time. So in this role, that's not my job. And it's easier for me to stay out of the weeds and work with those gals and the one gentleman who are in the weeds every day to say, hey, you're doing great work. But how can we show up for work differently, to achieve even more satisfaction and growth? And that's really what I'm focused on. So to be empowered in my job description to say you're responsible for coaching and mentoring, empowering people to do great work, like I couldn't have written a better job description for myself. And like I said, there's still all of the technical realities of the deliverables that we're responsible for. But my role is really, I've come in and it's a new position as well. So it didn't exist before, to come in and help what is already a highly functioning and competent team be even more amazing. So, I'm in a really great spot. I didn't come in to solve problems. I didn't inherit problems or challenges. We're just creating this pathway to greatness. And it's so exciting. It's very magical, I have to say.
One of the things about magic for me is this idea that magic is created. And I think that there's a misnomer that magic happens to us, right? And we got lucky, right? That's another thing that people think about with magic. But I'm very specific about the fact that when we're getting promoted on vacation, when we're getting promoted on sabbatical, when we are celebrating a summer magic promotion, like when Sandra is saying, hey, I had 3 job offers, she created that. And we don't just accidentally come upon these opportunities where all of a sudden we're included in the conversation. And the reason why this matters so much is you could say, oh, well, that's great and everything, but does it matter to really know that you created it? 150%, because every single one of you are not retiring anytime soon, right? You're going to have to do this again. You're going to get promoted again. You're going to have to build relationships again. You're going to have difficult times with your team and times where you're really going to have to pull yourself out of the weeds again, right? And it's so important to know how you did that, because I really, really believe that magic doesn't just happen to us, that we create it and we create these opportunities for us to have the perfect next job. And so when we really get intentional about what it is that we want to create, that's when magic starts to happen to us and it feels really supernatural and amazing all at the same time. But that's my definition of magic. I want to hear what your all's is. I'd love to hear, do you even believe in magic? What does magic mean to you? With this promotion, yes, but also just in general, like how do you use magic in your everyday life? Like what's your point of view on that? I'd love to hear. Kathryn.
I believe in magic. I know some of my colleagues call me a little bit of a wizard, but yeah, yes, I do. And I agree with the intention of where it seems magical, but you're putting in the work to end up. And then all of a sudden it's poof. How did I get here? It's everything that I asked for. It's building on other skills and I'm able to move even further from here. So it seems like poof, it happened, but you put the work in to create that magic without sometimes even realizing you're doing it.
How is your wizardry part of your leadership style?
Like I was saying earlier, I've always considered myself a little bit different. I always approach things with humor. I'm very much an empath, and I wanted that to be valued. I did have to do some work on myself because there was something holding me back, and I had to look at my value. And once I really understood my value, and something really resonated with me, and I can't give the credit to where I remember getting this from, but it was a bottle of water. Whether you buy it at a dollar store, or if you buy it at another department store, or if you're at a theme park. And that same bottle of water, you're going to pay 20 times the price because it's valued. And I finally feel that I understood that. I understood my value and how to portray and feel that value. So I did do some internal work with some excellent women in a group. And I will admit I had a very ugly cry on one of those calls. On camera, but it got to me to the internal work that I did of what's stopping me from being that $20 bottle of water. And it got me there, and something magical just clicked.
Nice.
And from there, I just started really fully being my full authentic self, that this is who I am. This is what I have to offer. This is what I value. This is where I want to be. I'm not going to accept somewhere where I do not feel valued and my impact. So that was.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story because it does. It matters that you're your whole self, but your whole self includes an incredible amount of power. So good. Sandra, do you believe in magic?
Well, sort of.
Yeah, it's good.
When I think about magic, it brings me back to thinking about being a little kid, and you'd go to a magic show or you'd see something on TV where there was magic. And I remember that my sister ruined it when she would say, it's not really magic. There's a lot of logic and process behind it. But the awe and belief, when you see it, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? And I think a lot of people, when you think about magic, like that promotion, people are like, you're so lucky you got that, or that's really amazing. So that is that magic piece, right? And I'm like, yes, I'm very, very lucky. And it's amazing that this happened to me. However, there were steps and there were process and there was logic. So it goes back to that sort of that awe of when you're little and you see these magic tricks happening. And so I think sometimes when people look at people who are in positions of leadership, they're like, wow, like, what is that magic to get there? And that's when you have that opportunity to really help them understand some of those steps that they can take and some of those pieces. But I also think those steps and pieces become really important for how they set you up for success in those magical roles that you get, because it's not that easy. I mean, obviously, the higher up you go, the more competition and the more challenges that you face to be able to get that. So that's why, do I believe in magic? Sort of. But it's more like, do I believe that I can create the magic? And I love the idea of the value of a water bottle. And I think that's the same thing with us too, because once we start to value ourselves more, that really helps others see the same value, because it's really looking at some of the exercises that you have us walk through and seeing the value that we bring makes it so much easier to articulate and to show that. And how do you show up every day to get you to a place where you can get those magical promotions?
Yeah, it's so good. I'm realizing I always learn something from all of my clients. And as you were talking, I was like, oh, yeah, another piece of this magical process is we always look at people in our organizations who just happen to get promoted, and we're so mad. Like, why does he always get promoted? Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Right. And what I did very early on in my process is I was like, there is a reason that he got promoted and you didn't. right? And so I went into investigative mode and like tried to figure out what that was, right? And so to your point, Sandra, there are things that we can do and we can work hard and we can put these pieces into place, and it's a logical progression. And there is a logical reason to the magic. And then we add the feminine magic on top of it. And that's when we're able to really change that leadership table and bring ourselves and to create that. And I love the embrace of what you're saying about being able to create that magic for yourself. Do I believe in magic? Well, I believe I can create that. Right. And so
But
good.
you talk about logical, which I really believe in, but it's not always sequential. So like when you look at someone and you're like, why is this happening to them? Or why can't I do that? Or I think that I'd be a better fit. Knowing that sometimes where that magic, if we believe that magic happens, it's the right things at the right time. And so sometimes those sequences don't work according to the plan that you have. But if you keep doing the right things will eventually happen for you.
I'm like, now I'm looking at Brandy. All right, Brandy, you're next. And this like, it reminds me of you. It's like,
It's
it doesn't
true.
always play out an exact plan, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to start with the original question, yes, is my answer. I do believe in magic. And I think for me, it's because it's that draw of like the mystical power, associated with magic. And if you ask me the same question about luck, I'd probably have more similar answer to Sandra, like, I think we make our own luck. But the same is true of magic. And whether you want to say you're making your own magic or, or it's meant to be, I think for me, the draw of the mystical power that is, that surrounds magic is that it's the art of the possible. And, working through the recognition and doing the work to unlock those magical moments and opportunities is really what it's all about. So it's about vision and I think, quite frankly, clarity. And I talked about that at the very beginning when we talked about magical wins. Magic wasn't something I wanted in my life. It was or needed. It wasn't like something I was striving for. It was something I was making happen. So I think honestly and truly setting those intentions and doing the work helps us to get through that sequential pathway to where we belong. And the clarity happens all along the way. So yeah, I set my 3X vision really big. I think you can't get much bigger than CEO. And that vision still rings very true for me with everything that surrounded that, all of the values that I brought to that vision, all of the really important qualities and, knowing what does it look like how do you know you're there? All of those things are still really true. I'm just now starting to empower myself in a different place to do the same things and with so much more clarity and so much more enthusiasm. It's not a hard fight anymore. It's magical. It's really it's like, is it really this easy? Do I have stress on my job and challenges? Of course. But I mean, the reality of owning that motivation and that work is that's the magic for me. So yeah, it's not by accident. It's not happening to me. I'm making it happen for myself. I'm making it happen around me with the people that I'm empowering. And quite frankly, the situations I put myself in. And I don't ever show up without intention. Before this whole program and several years ago, I think I was much more comfortable just waiting to see what happens kind of thing. And that's not magic, and you're not going to find magic, I think, at the end of that effort. So I really do believe that the art of the possible is what motivates me. And that's where I find my magic and the clarity. Again, you'll probably hear me say it a few times because I really feel like I set big goals for myself. I still believe in those goals and that I can get there, but I'm really doing the work every day to make it happen for myself.
So good. Thank you. Nicole, do you believe in magic?
I think the magic happens when all of the things fall into place. When you get that aha moment or you get that promotion or you can see the trajectory of how all these things that you've been doing, like you ladies have said, maybe not sequentially, maybe not as a strategy, but this thing here in October that you started doing and this thing here in January, you can see how they kind of all have led to your own growth and development that led to that spot when you got that promotion or you got that new opportunity. Same thing as like people don't become successful overnight. Oh, they were a success overnight. No, they weren't. They had all kinds of experiences and opportunities. And did they leverage them? Did they grow from them? Did they learn from them? along the way to get to a spot when there was an opportunity, or maybe they created their own opportunity? Did they have the tools at that point to be successful and to make that magic happen? I think I look at it more in that perspective.
That's awesome. It made me think about this concept that was taught to me very early on, probably through my religious upbringing, that everything happens for a reason. And I felt like that drives me, right? Like I totally believe that. I can look back and I'd be like, oh my God, that car accident, that terrible thing, that death, whatever, it all was meant to be and it all worked out. But even from a very early age, it felt incredibly passive, like outside of my control. Like I was just going to wait and see what happens. And so, as you were talking, Nicole, I was like, oh yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? Where it's like, we can look back at our career and be like, oh, this piece and this piece and this piece was in place and it all happened for a reason. And now I can see why I didn't get that job or that opportunity and look at where I am now. But if we don't believe in that power or that magic or that greater, like that we are capable of doing really big things, and to Brandy's point, this big audacious vision for ourselves, that's when the sparks start to fly, right? It's like, yeah, everything that we look back on happened for a reason, and I'm capable of doing really hard, big things, and I belong in this room. And speaking of that, actually, Nicole, I'll go back to you. Why do you feel motivated to be a part of the conversation, to have that voice at the table, to be a woman in leadership?
It is because I love bringing people together to collaborate. I don't have all the ideas. I'm really good at when I see something that doesn't seem to be efficient or has an opportunity to evolve, asking people until I get to the right person who could make a decision or who had the ability to make a change. And now I've been able to connect with enough people that they see that is a skill set. So now I'm able to bring those other people who had those similar questions I've had, or those different insights or possible solutions. Now that I'm getting closer to having more and more of a seat at the table, especially a voice at the tables that I am sitting at, I can bring other people along with me. Because like I said, I don't have all the ideas. I don't have all the solutions, but I'm really good at getting an inclusive group of people together to come up with something that's going to be great, as well as then bring their voice to the table and use my voice to actually get it to be executed. So that even if I have a voice at the table, it doesn't die at the table, like to really actually have something happen. So that's why I'm empowered to be at the table, have a voice, and bring everybody else with me along the way.
So good. Brandy, what about you?
I hear what Nicole's saying there. And I think my motivation, it varied over the years. It's evolved, I would say. Initially, I was really motivated by women empowerment and female leadership, very much aligned with your vision as well, Stacy, when I first started to work with you several years ago now. And my capacity to own that motivation has evolved to so many growth and learning opportunities. And much like Nicole, I'm a collaborator. I'm a collaborative and inclusive leader. That's my style, if you ask me. And I know it's on paper, but I own that every day. And for me, bringing more and more voices to the table, or very clearly and authoritatively representing others who aren't at the table, is something that I take very seriously in my current role and just in general. I do feel like it's an empowerment motivator. So initially, it was about empowering women. Now it's about empowering others who don't have the voice, or maybe don't have the motivation to be at the table. I can represent them and bring their ideas. I don't have all the answers, but I certainly work with a lot of really amazing people who have a lot of really great, ideas and suggestions that I can hone and represent and bring back. So for me, it's a big motivator to be the voice for others.
Yeah. Yes. Sandra, what about you? Why do you feel inspired to have a voice at the table?
Well, so for me, I think that there's two reasons. One is that I've had some really great mentors and have always tried to give back to others who need that. And the other one is the student success piece. And I think that one's more tied into the higher ed background. And I think that part of that is not everyone has had the same opportunities that I've had. And so through leading and doing the things that I do, it's trying to create that environment where people have those opportunities to have the things like I did to be successful. because so much of what we do is helping people create successful careers and things that they can only dream of. And so being able to have these opportunities really allows me to create those environments for people. But I also think it's having that chance to have them believe that they're worthy of those things as well. And so I think that that's so much why I think what I do matters so much every day.
So good. I love you all so much. All right, Kathryn.
Part of being at the table, the reason it's important to me is because I'd like to be an example to others where you don't need to be and act like everybody else and do a carbon copy fit of it. I like to bring my authenticity, and I'd like to show other women what is possible and be able to be that empathetic leader. And I like to have decisions on the larger picture of what's happening. I've always been the type of person that can see the pieces of the puzzle that fit together. But in this way, at this table, I'm able to have a larger impact of what is the strategy and how are those pieces going to fit together. So it's being my authentic self is very important to me.
So good. I love, getting to know the women that I work with over time and seeing them grow and seeing them change and become the woman that I saw from the beginning. I'm like, oh yeah, you're totally that. Like, you're totally already part of the executive team. You're already a corporate badass. Like, you can be president tomorrow. You can be right. Like, all of these things are so clear to me. And then as we start to see that within ourselves, I mean, this must be part of my motivation for having that voice as well. But as we start to see that within ourselves, and then we create that for ourselves, it just blows my mind, all of this. So, I want to thank each of you for celebrating the Summer of Magic, for doing the work, for setting the intentions, for putting yourselves in those positions of power and influence. We need each one of you at the top, right? You all not only deserve to have a voice, but we need you to have a voice, right? And so when we're thinking about other women, and as we kind of round out our conversation today, I'd like to hear from you. Anything else advice that you would give a woman who is not feeling very magical today, not feeling like things are happening for a reason, not feeling motivated to kind of keep going, wondering what to do next? Any final words of advice that you'd like to share with her? I think that would be really great to hear.
So I think that we all can probably relate that we get in those ruts from time to time. And obviously, if you're listening to the podcast now, this is a great place. Like going back to some of the very earlier podcasts where it's the very fundamental pieces, or going back and reading Promotions Made Easy again and starting to do those steps. Because again, it's that logical repetition of the things that we do every day, or start having those ally meetings again, or doing those things. And so it's not always looking at the end point, which we know is there because we've 3x'd our vision, but it's just doing the right things over and over again and knowing that they happen. And those bad days do occur. So it's like, are you going to let those moments define you? Or are you going to keep doing the things you know that will get you where you want to be?
Thank you.
I really feel like, this is something from where I sit in my role right now. I have women who are in those positions sometimes, and I really work hard to put myself in a position of listening and, letting them right up front say, hey, I'm here to listen. Do you need a vent session? Do you want my advice? Or do you just need to talk it out? And a lot of the times it gets really short on the venting and a longer version of focus on like the advice and the action plan. And what can we do to change this or to turn this around? And, I've been very
go get
fortunate.
A job with Brandy. Yeah. That's what
you come work for me.
I've been my team.
Fortunate. Honestly, I've been very fortunate that I've had some positive feedback that I know that that's working. So in the short time I've already been in this role, I've been told outright by my team members that like, hey, it's been amazing having you here. We didn't have a manager before you got here, and this is great. Please keep doing what you're doing. So that for me is validating. So I do take that I put myself, like I said, in that position of listening, and then ask, do you want to know what I think, or did you want some advice? You know what I think you could do? And then I ask them again, I follow up and say, hey, remember when we talked about those couple of options? Did you try anything? How did it go? So I'm developing rapport. That's on a personal level, but it's really motivated by bringing them like to the job every day as their best selves. So helping them find their authentic selves. And so that for me is, like I said, I really am putting myself in this like sort of mentor coaching role all motivated by, getting the job done and, getting the bottom line, delivered every day. But I really feel like that's become a strength of mine and something I actually am really committed to continuing.
It's really amazing to me how few women in leadership, how few leaders take the opportunity to give back. And I think some of this is rooted in self-doubt. Like, I'm still struggling to figure out what's next. I'm still trying to understand my own leadership, right? I had this woman who I was talking to, and she's like, I didn't know what to tell my employee, right? Like, she keeps asking for a promotion. I'm like, you're not ready. Honestly, I don't even know what I need to do. I don't know what to tell her. So I just gave her your book. Right. And I was like, I took that as a huge compliment, but that doesn't go without saying, because our leadership is not giving us a book. Our leadership is not trying, because they're still trying to figure out their own chaos. And so to hear you say that as a leader, that you're very committed to working with them, even if you don't know the exact answers of what's going to help their career or what's going to help them get to that next step, you're willing to listen. And so I love that advice, that it starts from making that connection with your team. And they're all right there, ready and hungry. You don't have to know exactly what to tell them to do next, but just be willing to have and engage in those professional development conversations. It's huge, huge. That's changing the leadership table. I'm like in awe. Yeah. So good.
Just on the topic of advice for other women, I just wanted to say it's not always going to be a smooth road. When I started working with you, Stacy, it was life-changing for me, learning all the processes about the ally meetings. There was something for me that was still stuck about my value, and I needed to get past that. So there's wonderful people out there. And if I could just mention, I worked with Mimi Bishop and Jackie Yadin from Modern Gen X Women, and that really helped me understand my own personal value and what the block was for me. So sometimes it's digging deeper just to get into the emotions of things and the value. But then once you get past that, reading your book, those are all the steps that you need to do. And the ally meetings, I was able to soar with them once I understood my value, like the bottle of water.
Oh, good. You are so valuable. I love that so much.
Going back again to that advice for anybody who's feeling like there isn't a lot of magic going on right now, my recommendation would be to set yourself up with a time block, some white space on your schedule, and ask yourself, where are you spending your time? Are you in the weeds? Are you having ally meetings? How are you communicating? Are you communicating like an executive? Are you sharing just the right amount of information with the right people and then like Stacy says, stop talking? Are you doing that? Like, that was a game changer for me. Like, just, updating people just enough that I let them know I got it handled. We've made a pivot. I've got it handled. We're on track. And then just stop talking unless they ask you more questions. So I think that'd be a great place to start, just kind of asking yourself those self-assessment things to kind of help come up with that next step plan for yourself, as well as reviewing Stacy's book, listening to some podcast episodes on a walk while you decompress. All those things will be very helpful to kind of get you back into that magic.
This is how we change the leadership table. You are all corporate badasses. You are all women changing leadership. Everybody who is listening today, who has celebrated one of those 108 promotions in the Summer of Magic, please, please, please remember that you created this, that you have the power to do it over and over and over again. And not only that, you have the power to help and uplift so many more people in your life. We are all incredibly powerful. And I'm just so proud of every single one of you, the people that I can see right now and those who I can't see, who just listen to this podcast, the people who listen through somebody else through this podcast, all of that ripple effect. It really matters. That's how we change the leadership table. And thank you all so, so much for being here. Before you go, I have a question for you. Do you know how close you are to your next promotion? Really? Not what your boss has told you, not what you even believe to be true, but have you actually taken the time to sit down, take an assessment, review the 5 categories that it takes to get promoted into senior executive leadership positions, and decided where you fall in each category, and given yourself a ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 of how close you are to getting your next promotion? Have you done this? Well, now's your chance. If that feels interesting to you and you're like, hey, I want to know exactly how close I might actually be, or how far away you might be, and what it's going to take to get you even closer, then I invite you to take my promotability quiz. This is a quiz that I put together with practical tips that actually tell you where you're lacking and where you're winning. What are the areas that you actually need to improve, and not necessarily what your boss is telling you all the time, so that you can take concrete steps towards landing that next promotion and changing the face of the leadership table. Go to yourpromotabilityscore.com to take your free assessment today. Yourpromotabilityscore.com, and let me know how it goes.